for you.
So sweet. Yay.
What was going on in your world as you were prepping to write this project? And I think the song itself actually started more in 1994 when you were starting to write it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wrote this in 92. I think 93, I think Jen Stark, who's here, my A&R girl at Atlantic, she found that song and then brought me over to New York and then started the record in 94. Let's just say that was, I thought I'd made the record 3 times before it got released, and it didn't get released till 96. So, I mean, that was my world then. I wrote this song, didn't realize that it would do what it would do. Do you want me to talk about how I wrote it? Or, should we just...
No, go.
No, we can...
Yeah.
I was working with my Tascam Porter Studio 8-track recorder. Anybody remember those? Yes. And my little Alesis MMT8 sequencer. I think, without me knowing it, I think I probably manifested that song because I was walking around the streets in Birmingham and I was thinking to myself, I wonder what it's like to write a song where you get on stage and everybody knows it as soon as you start singing it. And so I had this feels like, in my head, that little melody. And got to Martin, my husband's office, and said, I give me some paper. I need to just jot this down, did some manuscript lines, try to write the melody so I didn't forget it, as we didn't have phones in those days. I think some songs come on the wind and just you just go with it. I think that probably took a day or so to write because I was obsessed with the single note sound on the Korg M1. And so I started sequencing that and then adding all these atmospheric sounds around it. And then I was ready for the melodic ideas. Originally it was called Lydia when I wrote it because at the time I was reading the book For the Love of Lydia by H.E. Bates. And just a simple romantic novel set in the 1920s in the English countryside. And I just thought, the verses will work well, falling in love for the first time in this descriptive, wonderful world. There's a line in the book, I love you always forever, near and far, closer together. And I just thought that was great. So that ended up being the chorus. When we were sending stuff off to record labels, I thought, I made that at home on my Porter Studio. It's probably not that great. I should re-demo it properly. And I did do that. However, nobody picked up on that song. And the most interesting thing is, when I sent a cassette tape of all my demos, I put the original I Love You Always Forever demo that I did myself. And that was the one that, Jen found and Atlantic, signed me on the strength of that one song, really.
I do believe you might have sent me a file of one of these demos. Can I play the early one for everybody?
You can. Would you like to hear it? By the end of writing that song, I thought, oh my God, those lyrics are so corny. I can't do that. And I did try and rewrite that chorus a good few times, but nothing really worked. And I thought, well, I'll just leave it. Good job I did, wasn't it?
It really is so special. And I think I'm jumping quite a few, but I'm just excited to get into the impact of this song because it really has many generations and different ages in here. And we all know the chorus. We all smile Did you have any idea that it was going to make this much, just an impression on so many people?
No. I mean, I felt like, when I'd finished writing it and a few people were listening to it, I thought, yeah, it's got something, but not, I would have never have thought. Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing it for the first time on radio and just seeing it explode. And even to date, 30 years later, wow, people still want to use it. Maybe it is that nursery rhyme chorus at the end of the day, that's done it.
Yeah. Are any of the reach outs that you've had for the samples and interpolations and such that really surprised you? I know some of the people to mention, like Miles Smith, Lennon Stella, Betty Who did an incredible cover of it.
She did. That was the first cover that I thought, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. I loved it. I love you always, forever, near and far, closer together. Really loved it. She did a brilliant job. And the lovely thing about it was that she kept the structure of the song as is. And she did brilliant.
Do you remember singing it to the first biggest crowd that you've had and just like the response that everyone had in person?
The first thing we ever did was the Chance in Poughkeepsie, a small club. Mm-hmm. And I went on, and I think I did Nothing Ever Changes at the piano first. And then I went into I Love You Always Forever. I just thought that probably nobody will know it at all. And as I started the song, like everybody was singing the song. My manager at the time was crying, Armour, and it was just, what? That's crazy.
What are you up to right now? What's on the horizon?
Lots of different things. We've been releasing a few songs, me and David Lowe. David Lowe was actually the writer of the BBC News theme with the Pips. And when we got together a few years ago, we just wrote a bunch of songs. Going through life, I went through breast cancer and, I wrote about that. And then, so he was saying we should put these songs out. And I felt that they're such joyful little pop tunes. An album with him comes out on May 8th called Wanderlust. And it was just been really refreshing for me to do something different.
I think you've also been writing something else.
Oh, the little kids book.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Well, during my breast cancer journey, which was, a whole year out of my life, a friend of mine who's an author, Joe, said, we should write a children's book about I Love You Always Forever. And she came up with the idea and she said, how about, it's for under fives. And I'm trying to think, when your ice cream plops on the ground and it shatters like tiny little rainbows. I'm saying it all wrong. Don't quote me on this. Just remember, and you turn the page, I Love You Always Forever. And so it goes through this.
It's really cute.
It's very sweet. And as we were writing it, I said to Joe, we have to write it so that I can sing it, because it just makes sense, when you're sitting with your young little dudess. Hopefully we'll release that soon. And I got my sister to illustrate the illustrations, and it's
a
very
whole family
sweet.
affair.
I know. This book has been a really cool thing to do. I can't believe it's 30 years since we released that song. Yeah, so I'm just very grateful and thankful. So thank guys, the Sync dudes, for getting some work for me. Keep going, and don't forget any other new songs. That would be good.
Thank you all for coming to join us. I think that's it.
Lovely.